Livestock History Museum, and inside we have one of the original locomotives from the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. That one's called the Dayton.
Wow.
It's been cosmetically restored, which means it looks great on the outside, but they didn't restore the boilers. But our long-term plan here in Virginia City is to restore the tracks down to the freight depot, which is down the road there. In the 1800s, at the height of Virginia City, there were more than 45 trains a day coming and going from Virginia City. That's one almost every half hour. The Virginia and Truckee Railroad was one of the most profitable short-line railroads in the history of the world, mainly because it made money in both directions. It came up the mountain loaded with building materials for the town, timbers for the mines. We have more than 750 miles of mine shafts underneath Virginia City, and every mile had to be supported with timbers because the ground is unstable. And then they also came loaded with cordwood to keep all those steam engines running and all the machinery operating here in Virginia City. By 1900, the Lake Tahoe Basin was completely denuded of trees. Every tree had been cut down and shipped over here to Virginia City. Up is D Street, which was the original red light district in Virginia City. And that yellow house on the corner is the last remaining original prostitute's crib here in Virginia City. But in the 1800s, there were cribs lining that entire street. And the miners and the respectable gentlemen of the town could go into the saloons on C Street, sneak down the back stairway, go visit their favorite lady of the evening, and then sneak back up the stairs and exit respectfully up on C Street. So it was a very popular area. Behind me is the Piper's Opera House. This is actually the third Piper's. The first one was on the east side of C Street, burned down in a fire. The second one was built on this location, and it burned down in 1882. And this one was built in 1883. By the time this was built in 1883, the gold and silver was starting to play out in Virginia City, so John Piper didn't spend a whole lot of money on the building, and we've been paying for it ever since. We've got more than $5 million sunk into preserving the building. Foundations, insulation, new roof, electrical, everything. But if you go inside, the stage is the original stage, and the interior looks just as it did in the 1800s. There's performances throughout the year and tours daily if you want to go see the interior of the Opera House. We're on B Street now. B Street before the fire of 1875 was actually the main street in town. And that's why you see some of these big commercial buildings behind me. The first one's the old Miners Union Hall. Next to that is the Clampers Hall. The Clampers was an organization that still exists today, but it was originally established by miners to take care of miners, widows, and orphans. Of course, they were more interested in the widows than they were the orphans. The building next to that's the Knights of Pythias Hall. Across the street was the Oddfellows Hall. These were all fraternal organizations. You have to remember in the 1800s, the miners didn't have radio and television to go home to after their shift was over. So they would belong to a fraternal organization, and after they were done working, they'd go play cards, drink beer, and then go home, go to bed, and go back to work again. The ones that did not belong to one of these fraternal organizations would frequent one of the more than 100 saloons that Virginia City had. There were over 100 saloons and only 5 churches, and a lot of people say that was about the right proportion.
Okay, now where are we going to now, Paul?
Okay, we're going to take a ride up C Street, the main street in Virginia City. Here on the right we have the Marshall Mint, which is located in the old assay office, where they used to bring your gold and silver to have it checked to see how much gold and silver was in it.
Wow, look at this.
You notice all the original board sidewalks are still here.
The
famous Red Dog Saloon where Janis Joplin got her start before she was famous.
Wow, look at this.
Here on the left is the old Union Brewery. Downstairs they used to make beer, but there were probably 10 different breweries in town manufacturing spirits.
Look at that, folks. Feels like you're in the Old West.
There's Molinelli's Hotel. It was a hotel in the 1800s. Today it's called the Silver Queen Saloon and Hotel.
Wow.
You can actually book a room in a historic building. On the left side, we have the Julia Boulette Saloon. It's the home of Mandarin Garden Chinese restaurant, but they have a red light museum in the basement that's quite interesting.
Oh.
And then here on the left is the world famous Bucket of Blood Saloon, owned by the
Bucket of Blood
by the Marshall McBride family.
Wow.
And on the right we have the Delta Saloon, also famous since 1876.
They have the suicide table in there.
That's right. There's Elma with the Delta gift shop. Gross Brothers Antiques is located in the old pharmacy on C Street.
Wow, this is awesome, folks. Just walking down this street would be worth coming here.
Here on the left is a Territorial Enterprise building. That's where Mark Twain used to work on the newspaper. Well,
Mark Twain worked there?
Mark Twain lived and worked and got his start here in Virginia City, and Virginia City is where he took the pen name Mark Twain.
Wow. Didn't even know that.
Here on the right is the old Crystal Bar, which houses our visitor center, where you go if you want any information on town. They've got fundraising the city. The old Sharon House is where the Bank of California was located, and in the back is the old bank club.
Wow.
Right? The old Washoe Club, which upstairs had the Millionaires Club. If you weren't a millionaire, you weren't allowed to go in there.
That's where millionaires went.
And there were about 100 members. Here on the left is the old Liberty Engine, Fire Engine Company, number 1. And here on the right is the Pioneer Emporium. That was a hardware store back in the 1800s. If you go inside there, you can see all the hooks and everything on the ceiling where they used to hang the hardware from for sale.
All right.
The old historic Tahoe House Hotel, which has been completely restored and is a historic building that you can stay overnight in. And then here at the end of the street is the old Presbyterian Church. This one was dedicated in 1867. It was built at a cost of $12,000. But the parishioners didn't have enough money to build a church, so one of them got a hot stock tip on the local Virginia City Stock Exchange, invested the little bit of money they had, and they made enough money on it to build a church.